Hello, and welcome to Navigating Your Human Design Journey. I'm your host, Nani Chisire. I'm the creator of Human Design Tools, a place where you can get bite-sized human design that's easy to digest. I'm a certified human design practitioner, a mom, and I have a master's in business. I'm so excited to be here with you so that I can share with you how the pieces of human design play together. Human design is a self-discovery tool that shows you how to best use your energy and how to exchange energy with others. It uses ancient wisdom like the chakra system, astrology, the Kabbalah, and the I Ching, and modern science like quantum physics. There are many layers to your chart, and often what you learn confirms what you already know deep down. Sometimes you'll get an aha that solidifies something that you may have been told not to do, but you knew it was actually correct for you. Or maybe it explains why you know you shouldn't be doing something that is indeed not correct for you. So you kind of have an intuition about what is correct or not correct for you, and your chart just solidifies that for you. The chart is about learning soul lessons through interacting with life. We mostly get stuck in life because of conditioning and doing things that we think we should rather than what we truly want to do. So here's the agenda today. We're going to go through a metaphor for how the pieces of human design play together or fit together on what I call the human design road trip. I want you to see the importance of your role as a driver and how you can steer the journey towards what brings you joy. We'll do this through talking about the trip and then talking about the pieces and putting it into practice. Because wherever you go, there you are. You are the only thing that doesn't really change on your journey. Okay, let's start with the trip itself. Think of it like this. We are all getting from place A to place B in some way. For this example, it's through a car or via a car. Your life purpose is a vehicle for your soul, and it drives you through your journey of life. We all have cars, so we all have the same life purpose, and our cars represent living authentically and being yourself. So you come here and your life is lived through being yourself. But we all have unique paths based on where your driver wants to take you. So your soul essence is the driver of the car. Your soul is telling you where to go, and the direction comes from what it desires and what it needs to learn. Now imagine the technology for self-driving cars is available to everyone. I believe when we have kids, or sometimes it's when you get onto a certain career track, our soul sort of pushes the autopilot button on the car and jumps into the passenger side or in the back seat. The car takes us for a ride for a while. It's not a bad thing. Our kids literally need us. But then one day we wake up and we realize that our soul is sitting in the back seat or sitting in the passenger seat, and it feels trapped. It just wants to get back into the front and drive to the destination of its choice in its time and in its way. So here's the journey with all the pieces. So there's a starting point, could be the beginning of your life or the beginning of your day. And you have the driver and the car, and then you have the map of where to go, and you have your GPS. This is your human design strategy, kind of telling you where traffic might be ahead or different paths that you could take. And then there's these changing environments as you're on the road trip. Those are your open energy centers. You might get emotional signals along the way, and they can come from your human design strategy, like they're called the not self emotions, but you can get emotions for different reasons, and they can tell you if there's like a hazard or they just tell you different things about your trip. And then there's of course different flavors to your trip, the type of car that you might drive or your human design type, preferences on your road trip, like your profile and lines, and then the overall flavor of your trip, which can be reflected in planets and gates. And I'll tell you all about these soon in more detail. And of course, we're all headed towards this goal or destination of joy. So that is where we're all headed. Let's move on to part 2 and dig into the individual pieces. Remember, joy is where we're headed. It's where we're headed in our lives, every day or even every moment. Joy is our North Star, and it's what brings us abundance. It's about being aligned and loving what you do. And in the human design chart, it's actually gate 59, and we're all striving to reach joy or make things more joyful in our lives. And it, of course, is something that brings us abundance and doesn't hurt others or hurt the planet. Okay, so first there is you. You are the driver. And when I say you, I mean your soul essence. Some might call this the soul purpose, but it's made up of all the energy that's inside of you, and actually this energy extends around you. I always think of your essence as like the genie, and it's like, inside your body, but actually it's like bigger than your body. And it's your authentic desires, and it's really the essence of you. And if you want to look at it in terms of your human design chart, the first clue to look at is your conscious sun gate and the energy that's in there. Purpose is path. Your vehicle is your life path, also called your life purpose. This takes you on the journey of your life. It's not your physical body. It's more an unconscious part that's taking you where you need to go. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to say it again. So your life purpose is to be yourself. You're here to be who you are. So there it is. Your soul essence is the driver, and that's what your soul is telling you. It's guiding you where you need to go, and the car is your life purpose. And so how you're going to get through life is by being yourself. We are here to be ourselves, to be unique by just being authentic. And we're being guided by our soul voice through our life story. In fulfilling our purpose to be ourselves, it's about resonating with your true self. So let's start with the type of car that you have. This is similar to your human design type. It's how you feel yourself. It's also the role you play, but you can't play the role without the fuel. So that's what I want to talk about here. This example has nothing to do with the environmental impact of a car. It's more about how you get fuel and continue on your journey. If you're a non-sacral being, so that's a projector, a manifester, or a reflector, you may feel like an electric car. You need to plan ahead when you're going to stop and recharge. Or sometimes life will tell you that you need it, even if you haven't planned ahead, no matter how inconvenient it may feel. Sometimes you can stop at charging stations that have a turbo boost. That's like when you borrow energy from another, or mostly borrowing it from sacral beings. But you can't hold on to that boost forever. And you also have the opportunity to plug in every night, overnight, and recharge. Now, if you're a sacral being, so you're a generator or manifesting generator, you're more like a hybrid car. When you're going downhill, this is when you're doing things that light you up, that you love, you're filling up your tank and you're giving yourself more energy. But if you're constantly going uphill and doing things that you don't love, you're going to run out of fuel at a much faster rate. Of course, you still need to fill up with gas sometimes, but then again, this happens every night when you rest. Your human design strategy is your navigation system. It tells you which way to go. It gives you warning signals when you may want to choose another path. It does this in the form of the, not self emotions, and it may warn you that there's traffic on one route, giving a generator a feeling of frustration or a manifestor the feeling of anger. When you use this correctly, you smoothly turn onto the alternative path and still arrive at the same destination, but with more ease and likely faster than if you had pushed through the route with traffic. That's where you'll get stuck and you'll feel your emotion even stronger. Your human design authority is how you are navigating your car. It's the decisions you make about what road to take, if you're going to take the path with traffic, or if you want to take another path. Either you are utilizing your authority to help you decide authentically, aka using your personal authority to make decisions will allow you to go where your soul essence desires, or you're allowing the backseat drivers to tell you where to go. When you let others' voices, ideas, thoughts, and beliefs condition or cloud your own authority, you may go places that you didn't actually want to go. Maybe you thought you should, so that's conditioning in the ajna, or maybe you wanted to avoid their emotions or confrontation, conditioning in the emotional solar plexus. Authority helps you decide your path to joy. It's your inner clarity, and it talks to you through your body. Your human design profile is about your personality and your preferences on your trip. How do you want to go on the drive? Do you like to travel alone? Or do you like to plan or wing it? You'll have a combination of 2 lines, so you may prefer more than one at different times. Line 6 may also prefer different things at different times in life based on the phase you're in, since there are 3 phases there. So if you have a line 1, you might like to investigate your trip. You might do something like Google Maps, online research, or maybe even have a printed map. If you have line 2, you may prefer to drive alone at times, or until your friends ask you if you want to go on a trip with them. Line 3 might like to wing your trips and see what adventures they take you on. Line 4 may prefer to drive with friends or go to places that your friends recommend, or you might stay with a friend or a friend of a friend along the way. Line 5 may be blogging or posting anonymously in an online forum about your trip along the way, sharing the most practical tips for taking the trip and making the best shortcuts known to all of your followers who think they really know you. And line 6, you might like different drives at various points in your life. You may prefer to wing it when you're younger in your experimental exploring phase. You might like to do solo trips when you're on the roof, so that's the middle phase, or you might be more like a tour guide when you're in your role model phase. Your human design energy centers will tell you how the weather outside will affect your driving. Your centers are affected by energy around you and outside of you. Your awareness of how the energy works is how you react to the outside forces. If your center is defined, you'll react in a consistent way. If your center is undefined or open, this is where the elements outside of you and your control may affect your path. For example, if you live in a place that is consistently sunny and dry and your trip takes you into the rain or snow, it's going to feel very unfamiliar to drive there. That's what open centers will feel like for you. The human design gates may tell you a little bit about the flavor of your road trip. They may tell you what makes you feel more grounded, or maybe even why you're taking the road trip in the first place. So I'm going to talk to you about a few of my favorite gates and how they help your soul activate. And I talked to you a little bit, about your soul essence, and you can look up your conscious sun gate. But here's a couple other planets that I want to look at because I think they're important to kind of how you go on your journey. So your earth gates are what ground you. So on a road trip, it might be playing music or an audiobook, or maybe it's rolling down the windows or stopping at a rest stop, or maybe it's pushing through without stopping. It's totally personal. In your chart, whatever gate numbers are next to the earth symbol, that's what it's like, the circle with the cross in the middle. That's the essence of that energy is what will make you feel most grounded and supported along the way, along your journey. And then you wonder why are you even going on this road trip, or what's motivating you? So the moon is what drives you. It tells you why you're taking the trip in the first place. Are you visiting someone? Are you going to a concert? Or are you just going to see the sights? In your chart, the gate numbers next to the moon symbol, there it looks like a moon, they tell you what your driving force might be. And that's an interesting one to look at. Another one that comes up, and it was definitely huge in my life, and it's huge in everyone's lives because it's this time, the Saturn is what I'm talking about here. So there's a time in your life where the Saturn returns and it brings you a challenge or a catalyst for growth. And of course it's happening at all times, but it's going to be felt more around that Saturn return. I like to look at it because many people don't actually kind of figure it out right when that Saturn return happens. And so you might still be interested in looking at this energy here. So on a road trip, this would be something major like a natural disaster or a car accident or a construction area that requires a huge detour. In your chart, the gate numbers next to your Saturn symbol tell you what energy might be trying to align you back to your authentic path. And it usually comes in kind of a challenging way to try to bring you back onto your authentic path. So using human design as a tool, you can look at the energy that you need to feel grounded in your mission. what's motivating you, or what major challenges you might be faced with, and what you are here to do or give as your gift to the world. So that was the last individual piece, and here's a quick recap of the journey now that you have seen all the individual pieces. You have a choice to follow your essence and hop in the front seat with your essence and your authority, and actually listen to your GPS and take the alternative routes when needed. And sometimes you need to navigate through others' open, or well, actually through your open centers, but through others' energy. And you can use your emotions to tell you things. They're information. They're not a hindrance. Use them to your advantage, like the signs telling you that there's a risk ahead, or that there's things about your trip that will be unique to you and how you feel about them. It's good to know about them so you can have an enjoyable trip, especially when you bring friends or family along. It's all about having fun and feeling good, and this trip will play out for you every day, every week, and every year. So there's a lot of information in here and out in the human design world, like on the internet, but it doesn't mean squat if you can't do anything with it in real life. This is part of the gift that I'm here to give. So let's put some of this into practice. Let's put it into practice today, or maybe this week if you can't get it done today. So let's take some action. First, grab your chart. There are a lot of things you could look at, but I want to move back. I want to move you first from the back seat to the front seat. And I believe that that is through the human design authority. It's about how you decide where to go, or when to change paths, or when you need to fill your tank, or what to do when you run into bad weather, or what to do with the emotional signals that your body is giving yourself. So let's move you from the back seat, or from listening to the back seat drivers, into you driving from the front with your authentic inner clarity. So to get to your inner clarity, you can look at it in your chart. And so this is your authority, like I just said. So go look at your chart in the summary, find where it says authority, and then either like circle it or write down what it says. And then pay attention to your authority in the next 7 slides and see if there's one thing you can do to experiment with a new way of using your decision making this week. So I can't tell you exactly what to do because all of the authorities differ and how you play them out will differ, but I can tell you how it might work best for you. And so you can try it on this week. So these are the 7 different types of authority: sacral, emotional, splenic, sounding board, self, ego, and lunar. I'm only going to lightly touch on each of these so that this video doesn't go way too long. But have you ever heard the advice, listen to your gut? That advice is best for those with sacral authority here. So in your chart, you'd have a defined sacral, and your emotional solar plexus center would be undefined or open. So these sacral sounds are this or and they are your body like vibrating and telling you how you feel about the answer. And it's often that when we are very young, about 4 years old, we're conditioned out of this because we want to be, like use full sentences and appear polite, but then we lose touch with the feeling and that tuning into our gut and what it's saying to us. So the best way to find an answer in this is to have someone else ask you yes or no questions and then respond or If you don't even want to do those sounds, you can say yes or no, but it actually is a way to really tune into your body when you're first starting out with this. But it's definitely not the mind, it's the gut in this situation. And so a tip here is if someone asks you a question, a yes or no question, it means that it's a no or not now if you hesitate at all, because things that you really want to do, you're going to be like almost like pulled into it, and like it's going to raise your emotional state, but like you're feeling up and you're going to be like or yes I want to do that. So you'll know those. And so sometimes we get stuck in our head and then we try to think about it and then we don't, and then we say yes, but that's probably a not now because you're If you didn't say yes, like right away, instantly, when you have the sacral authority, then you might not be ready for it quite yet. So the next one is the emotional authority. And so this means that your emotional solar plexus center is defined or filled in. And the most important mantra for you, if you have emotional authority, is to wait for clarity over time. So you'll have these emotional waves that you learn about in different, all over the internet on human design. But it means that you are tuning into your emotional clarity to find out if answers are correct for you. So take your time and write out your wave, and everyone's wave differs. It could be very short, like within a day or a couple days, but it could be much longer. And so when you really know that it's right for you, you're going to have this peaceful clarity. That's the feeling that it's a yes. So if you say, like this chart here is showing you, like if you say yes one day and then the next day you're like, I'm not sure, and then you say yes again and then you commit to it, you might actually, like, so this is actually tip number 2 here. If you go up and down or yes and no as you're making the decision and then you jump into it, your whole experience is going to feel like, oh, should I have done this or should not I have not done this? Oh, I should have done this. So you're going to kind of follow the same like yes, no feeling about it. So you really want to say yes, 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 yes. And you don't have to know like the mechanics of all these pieces. It's if you have that peaceful clarity, that's when it's a yes for you. So don't commit unless you have already found that peaceful clarity. That's a tip. And if you don't have it yet, give yourself some time and say something to people like, I don't know, or let me sleep on it. I need a few days. You're just informing people that you need the time to make the decision, and it will help you and it will help the others for them to know that you need that time. Then there's the splenic authority, and this is an instant inner knowing. It's an instantaneous feeling when you're presented with an opportunity or situation, and it's going to tell you like in a flash, and then it's gone if you want to do this or not. So it's like operating in the now, and it knows what's healthy for you. So it's going to be different for everyone. So I can't tell you what it is, but if you can like think back to a time when you knew something was right and you had this like small voice or this feeling, think of that when you're making the next decision. Like, is that feeling there? I would focus on what, because it goes so fast, it's like you really want to focus on the ones that you know are definitely yes, and make sure that you've tapped into this feeling when you're making decisions and you're committing to something and saying yes. So of course I've already spoiled my tip. Go back to a time when you absolutely knew something was correct for you, and what was it that made you act, or what was that feeling in your body that made you ready to act on something, and then it turned out good. In your chart, it's the defined spleen, emotional and sacral centers are undefined or open. So if you have a defined, you don't even need to know this. You just like go to the summary and it will tell you if you have splenic authority. Okay, let's move on to self-projected authority. In the chart, it would be, you would have a defined G center and throat, and then you'd have undefined emotional, sacral, spleen, and heart centers. So it can be easy to lose sight of who you are when the conditioning of the world is so loud, but learning to trust the truth of who you are is key for this. So you need to learn to listen to your own voice and trust the information that comes from it. Only say yes to things that feel easy, and say yes verbally, because this one is about talking it out with a close circle of friends or trusted people who will not try to sway your decision, but you can hear yourself talking about it to them, and that is what is going to tell you about yourself. So learn to listen to yourself. This is a tip, without letting your mind hijack the answer. And maybe try it a few times, like make the decision and see how it turns out. Did you think, yes, I should do this, or no, I shouldn't do this, and then you did it anyway, and how does that turn out? So try that this week. And then there's the sounding board authority or environmental authority. And unlike other types of authority, it's this outer authority versus an inner authority. So in the chart, it means a combination of a defined head and ajna and throat centers. So you have defined head, ajna, and throat centers, and then all the other centers are undefined below the throat. So with this authority, you have a lot of openness in your body. So it's essential that your surroundings feel good to you. If the environment feels wrong, what takes place there will also be incorrect for you. So it's very important for those of you with this authority to have this trusted group of friends similar to the sounding board authority who know how valuable it is for you to have people to listen to you. These friends are not necessarily there to give you advice, but rather act as a sounding board for you to bounce ideas off of. So this is sometimes the feeling that you have for this one is this vibration of your own voice and your own guidance to yourself. That is what the answer is, or it tells you what the answer is. So a tip here, that's not another one, this one is actually the first tip. Learn to listen to yourself without letting your mind hijack the answer. So this, again, you want to talk it out with other people, kind of like you're bouncing it off of them so that you can hear it for yourself, about yourself. They can give you all of the advice that they want. It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about that, and you don't even have to think about that. It's about you talking it out with them so that you hear it back for yourself. Then there's ego authority. And this would mean that you have a defined heart center and your emotional, sacral, and spleen centers are undefined, and you will be either a manifester or a projector. So as a manifester with the ego authority, whatever you blurt out in the moment without thinking is your truth. And this might be difficult for you because as a child, you were probably taught not to do that at a certain age again. And what you should be asking, okay, I don't like the word should, but what is helpful for you to ask yourself is like, what's in it for me? It's about identity, it's about yourself and what you desire. And so you either have the energy to do something or not, but it is very transformative when you do have the energy for it and you say yes. And as a projector with ego authority, it's similar but slightly different. Of course, your strategy as a projector is to wait for invitation. So it's not about blurting out the answers exactly like a manifester. It is, though, rather about waiting to be recognized by others and invited into opportunities or situations, and then deciding if the benefit of that opportunity is worth it for you. So check in with your bodies and know if it's right for you or not. And the tip here is asking yourself, what do I want? And what's in it for me? And is it worth it? And then the last type of authority is the lunar authority. And you will be a reflector if you have this one. And unlike the rest of the types who are solar beings, you are a lunar being. So throughout the 28-day period, your chart connects you to the moon and brings you different experiences. And sometimes it's even 2 to 3 times per day. So that can be, hard to make decisions if you're feeling different throughout the day or different times of the month. Again, environment is key to helping you be with the correct opportunities and people. You want to feel good in your environment so that you can feel good in your decisions. And this one, again, is about talking it out with trusted people throughout that 28-day period. And if it's a big decision, like not making the decision until the end of the 28 days so that you are very comfortable with going through all that energies and just like waiting out the strategy. It's your strategy, but it's also your authority. And a tip for this one, and I learned this from a reflector, is that when something comes into your field and you need to decide about it, write it down. And then write about it and how it makes you feel for the entire lunar cycle. At the end of the month, or this lunar period of 28, sometimes it's 29 days, is it still a yes? And if it is, then go for it. And within that opportunity, you can act like any type at that point. It's just about how you enter into the opportunity. And the reflector that I was talking about is Amanda Preschel from Reflector Life. And I just wanted to say that because she has great tips for reflectors if you're a reflector. So learning about your authority can help you understand yourself and others better, and it can help you navigate the journey of your life in a way that works for you. Be gentle with yourself. It takes time to get in tune with the way you receive information about what the best decisions are for you. The more you learn to listen to your own authority and your own body, the closer you will be to living the life that you came here to live. So the power activation and the authority comes from being present. So I say pause and just breathe before you're making decisions, and then tune into your authority. I also learned about perfect mantras, and they can bring more power to everything you're doing as well. And they are a way to perfectly train your brain to accept a new awareness. So here is a mantra for your authority. I listen to my inner voice because it is how I make decisions that are best for me on my own journey to joy. And if you can, say that out loud to yourself. You could even write it down. This is another piece of that action, and it's putting this human design tool of authority into play. So let's recap what I went over today. The trip is a metaphor for your human design journey or your life journey. And the pieces range from the 5 types to the 64 gates and how they all interact beautifully as a blueprint for how your life can flow. And the practice is taking the new awareness and putting it into practice and implementing it in real life. So try this one tool at a time and start this week or even start today. So if you feel so inclined, tell us an aha that you got from the video or something that you're going to put into practice this week. So if you do an experiment, come back and tell us how it went if you feel so inclined. And we can learn from each other. That's why I ask for this feedback, because other people might learn from something you say. And if you enjoyed this video or got a nugget, give it a thumbs up. And if you want more, or you want to learn more from my channel, then subscribe. And if you want to get into my inner circle, my inner circle list, and get a freebie, find the link in the show notes and get on that list. Thank you so much.